welcome to another episode of In the Nude. We're going to talk about the not so fun losing friendships and losing relationships and healing. I know, it's not fun. People don't like to talk about it. It's an uncomfortable topic. People don't want to talk about like the loss side of healing, but it exists, and so I want to demystify it. If you are in the process of having lost friends already, or you're in the process of changing and you see people's discomfort, this is just a breakdown of it, okay? There's a happy and sad to it. There's a happy and sad. We're going to go sad first. One, just to get out of the way, and two, because you already kind of know what it is, right? In the process of you healing, let's first define healing. Healing is, right, it's not changing to becoming a better you. That's not healing. It's becoming more you. It's pulling away the things that were like coping mechanisms that are no longer helpful for you. Survival tactics that you don't need anymore. People-pleasing things where you're pushing yourself aside to put on what other people want. Abdicating and distancing yourself from yourself for another person's gain, right? Those are the things. Healing is that. Healing is learning how to give yourself grace and accountability. Being willing to look in the mirror and see what's beautiful there, but also say, hey, I also want to push myself to be fill in the blank. I want to show up larger for myself. I want to be more bold in my thoughts with other people. It's learning how to have grace for yourself in the process of what you're doing. Learning what feels aligned with you and what doesn't. Learning how to create boundaries so you feel safe. All of it's all fortifying, right? It's all you, and you relating to other people and having grace and understanding for other people and having love for yourself so you can have love for other people. That's the okay. When you're in that process of that healing and recentering yourself with who you are versus who you felt you needed to be. We're no longer wearing those masks. We're no longer wearing those suits. We're being us, okay? In that healing journey, when you're creating those boundaries, they're going to be people who haven't dealt with you doing boundaries before. And this is new and uncomfortable. And it could be simply that it's new and uncomfortable. And it could be just a simple conversation for some people. And they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And they learn and they grow with you. But other times, those people, they were benefiting from you not having a boundary. And they don't like not benefiting. There are people who you used to push yourself off for and just, oh, whatever you want. And you're no longer doing that. And they don't like it. And it's not because they're a villain. Sometimes it can be. But it's not because they're a villain. It's because they don't like the inconvenience. They're in this healing journey of their own, right? Every person is, whether they're deciding to tread water where they are or move further on their journey, everybody is on their own path of realizing who they are and learning to love themselves there, right? So that person may not be in a place where they can see that they are so focused on what they gain versus what and who they are, right? Because those are two very different things. So you no longer giving them what they want, and they can't hear that it's because you're trying to take care of yourself. That person is at a place where they aren't really your friend. So when you lose that relationship because they don't like boundaries, or they lose that relationship because they don't like you're not doing the things that they liked before, you're losing a relationship that was never really a relationship. Like it was, but more like you were friends to them, but they weren't friends to you. You were in this give situation, but there was no actual receive. It was a one-sided situation, and that can even be a whole nother level of heartbreaking because you have these relationships that you felt like were a camaraderie. You felt like there was connection. You felt like there was something there. And then you create the boundary to take care of yourself and you can explain it to them and they don't care. They just want you to go back to what benefited them. And it proves they don't actually love you. They may not actually know how to love. They aren't the person you thought that they were. It isn't the relationship you thought it was. And that's a whole different podcast of dealing with that that is. Quickly said, the truth of what you experienced and what you thought the relationship was versus what you now know to be actually true, both things can exist at the exact same time. It's the quickest way I can explain that. You can accept the fact that while it may not have actually been factually true that that person loved me, I felt like they did. And therefore, there's a level of reality for your perception of it. But you can also know the truth of I now know that none of those things were based in their love for me. It was based in convenience of making something happen. But that loss is hard. But when we come to the table with a perspective on the loss, this is where it becomes the happy part. How you view a thing changes the impact of the thing. Okay? If you're in a car accident and you're like, this sucks, everything about it's going to be frustrating. Versus if a kid's in a car accident, it's their first time experiencing it, they're like, oh, what's going on? They're curious. They think about it as a new experience. It's an adventure. Whether that it's a great adventure or not, it is. The perspective of a situation adjusts. So when we come to the table of this and have the perception of, I didn't lose a friendship, I lost a figment of my imagination. I'm creating this space in my life that once was held by somebody who didn't love me. And I'm now creating this space for someone who could come in. Because in order for us to have relationships where they show up the way that we would love to have relationships, where they're honest and they keep us accountable, but they also give us grace and understanding, where they are loyal and they will invest in us and we can invest in them, where there's reciprocity, where there's a desire to grow and change, where there's a desire to love other people and do something bigger. In order to have those new relationships, we have to make space in our life for them. So while it is sad to lose this relationship you thought you once had, it wasn't actually the relationship you thought you had. Because if it was, they'd be okay with your boundaries. They'd be okay with you loving yourself. So you lost it. And you created this vacuum in your life. This space, this empty vacancy, like a help wanted sign, but for you. And it may not fill immediately. It may not. And there's some isolation that can happen with that. It isn't just like, oh, they went out the door and the next one opens. And maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe you're not yet showing up like the friend you'd want to have. For me, if I was sitting there and I'm wanting this friend and I have this long list of attributes of what this relationship or whether friendship or otherwise, that I want to have that other person show up as, the surefire way for me to try to attract that into my life is by showing up as that person. If I want that person to be loyal, I need to show up as loyal. If I want that person to be understanding and give grace and accountability, I have to be understanding and give grace and accountability. If I want that person to ask me to go out and do things, I need to be the person who goes out and asks other people to do things. If I want to be the person, want a person who creates boundaries and it keeps the relationship safe, I have to be the person who creates boundaries and keeps the things safe. In order to have a relationship and you want someone else to show up a certain way, you have to be willing to show up in that same certain way. So sometimes when we have this vacancy in our life and it isn't immediately filled, it's because part of this journey of healing is learning how to get a foundation within ourselves, get a safety of ourselves. But with a vacancy and with us showing up as that person we want to have that relationship with, it does fill. It may not always fill in the same way that we thought it would, right? Say like you lose 8 not actual relationships, but you thought they were relationships, those people who were just using you. Maybe you only gain 1 really great friend. But that's still a way better ratio than 8 people who are just trying to take from you. Maybe you wanted somebody, like I wanted people to live in my city so I could go out and do things with them in person. The people that I've gained in this healing journey none of them have been people anywhere in proximity to me. But each one of them, I'm in a season of life where I couldn't actually go out and do all those things. So maybe that'll come when I can. But each one of the people that has come into my life has had a connection, has had a pinpoint in my journey of whether it was a camaraderie of heart or a symbiotic healing process. Each one of them has been a hug. Each one of them has been a blessing, and none of them are near me. So it didn't show up in the way that I thought it would. It didn't show up in the way that I wanted it to. But it will show up. And it'll continue showing up as we grow and as we change and as we show up for ourselves. Don't be disheartened if you lose relationships in the process. In the same way that you lose tiny bits of yourself, you could view it that way. That bad that coping mechanism that doesn't solve anything for you now, that people pleasing that you abdicated yourself, you could view that as, I'm losing part of myself. Or you can view it as, that was never me. That was a thing that I did to make it so other people were happy. Our perception of a thing makes a difference. So when you view a loss of a relationship, instead of it seeing it as I lost this relationship, if we view it like, if I lost them, if they walked away, or I created a boundary and they stepped by and I had to walk away, that relationship was never about beneficial love. It was about me giving and them taking. Maybe it'll come around one day. Maybe they'll be somewhere later in your healing journey. They'll have met you up in your healing journeys and you guys can be friends again. I don't know. But if you've lost a relationship right now, how you decide to view it makes a greater impact on the loss than the loss itself. I'm going to repeat it because it's really important. How you decide to view that loss, how you interpret it, that truth you take away from it, has a greater impact on your life than the loss itself. Don't be disheartened. You're not alone. Every person that ever has or ever will be on this healing journey will lose people and lose relationships forever or for a time for these same reasons you are. You cannot worry about how other people are going to react to you taking up space and you showing up as you. The things that are your job, because that's not your job, the things that are your job is showing up for you. It's showing up and giving yourself grace, yourself compassion, yourself accountability, because you can't give grace and compassion without the accountability. You have to be willing to look in the mirror and be like, man, I was a jerk just then. I shouldn't have said it that way. I shouldn't have said that at all. I didn't think. I was a hypocrite just then. I said they should do this thing and I'm not even doing that thing. Accountability with grace. We show up and we take care of us. That is our job. If we are taking care of us, creating boundaries, creating safety, being accountable, giving ourselves grace, looking in the mirror and seeing what is. Looking in the mirror and seeing, why am I doing this? Asking those questions, getting answers. If we take care of our job, they'll take care of theirs. It's not ours. Let them. They want to walk away, let them. They want to cross their boundaries, so you have to keep a wall, let them. There will be people that will come into your life that will make you feel very loved, very cared for. And it doesn't make the process any easier. But I hope that you will see the hope at the end of it.